Okay, Steve, here we go. We're going to start putting things back together. So some of your parts came in. A very important part, in fact, is this one right here, which is your brand new, shiny, new old stock cannon pinion. Just nice, from Seiko. Okay, so that's the linchpin in getting your movement back together. Couldn't really start until that made it here. So now that we're here, we can start with the rebuild. Now what I have to start with here is the center wheel, and the center wheel gets put in, and what I usually do is build out just the center wheel on this side of the movement, and then I move over to the calendar side, but actually I build out all the components of your there we go, of the pieces that control the movement of the hour recording wheel. And the reason I do that is because I like to get the hour recording wheel plate in place so it can locate your lower mainspring arbor port. And so that way when I go to put the barrel in, it's actually going into a jewel rather than just hanging out and not going into anything. I'm not sure that's the Seiko way, but that's my way, and I think it works pretty well. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and construct this, and then I'll be able to build out all the components on the other side of the movement. Okay, so this will go into place. Very good. Again, I apologize for the snoring in the background. My companions don't seem to care about the noises they make. Okay, so now we're on this side. Now, all of these components have to get built out. This is your hour wheel components. This is where all of your components for the keyless works go. Okay, so first of all, let's go ahead and get your keyless works built because we need to get things on top for that. And so that means we are going to do some lubrication. Some important areas here where components go. Okay, movement wheel. There will be long moments of silence while I'm concentrating on getting everything reassembled here. So I apologize for that, but get your stem here. All right. Now, build your setting. Winding pinion here. Okay, lubricate all your gears and all of your teeth. Make sure everybody is well lubricated. Okay. Okay. Get your yoke in place. All right. Let's go ahead and get your setting lever. Okay. Now we proceed with the spring. These springs tend to have a mind of their own, and they want to explore the universe, so they like to fly. So we're going to be extra careful. Our first screw back into the movement. Of course, it wants to disappear. Okay. The reason I think Seiko might have thought to allow us to put the movement together this way is that they leave access ports for lubricating the jewels that are on this side of the movement. And so that gives me some confidence that this method is actually acceptable, because I can get to the jewels from the back side. Okay. Right. So now okay, let's check your keyless works. That's good. Everybody seems pretty happy. I'm going to put some lubrication on some spots. Good. There's your quick date change. It seems to work very well. Okay. All right, keyless works is working, so that's a plus. Now, let's go ahead and build out the rest here. All right, I'm gonna put your brand new Canyon pinion on. Cannon pinion. Look at that beauty. All right. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay. Good. Excellent. All right, now we have to build some levers and some pieces. So let's go ahead and get started with that. And again, we need to start with lubrication. This is a braking lever that holds your hour recording wheel in place. Oops, sorry. There's your lovely shiny hour recording wheel. Good. Okay. Now, let's get this resetting lever in place. This actually transfers through to the train side and interacts with the reset levers on that side of the movement to help reset your hour recording wheel. Okay. And this lever arm interacts with that to touch that heart that's on here. There's the spring that actuates everything. Very good. Okay. Now we put your resetting lever, which gets a small amount of lubrication here for that surface. And there we have it. Make sure everybody stays where they're supposed to be. Now we can build the last of these few components and get this sealed up, if you will. Now to operate your calendar side, you have a gear that runs from your movement side, or from this side over to your movement side, or this side to the calendar side, I should say. So it transfers information in the form of gear on your hour wheel right here. Now I'm going to go ahead and put your die shock jewel in place so it's ready to go when we're setting the balance. Sorry. Okay, which means I have to lubricate this. Lubricate and set the jewel. Check this to be sure we got enough lubrication. All right, let's do that one more time just to be 100%. Sometimes okay, that should do it. Perfect. Yep. Okay. Let's go ahead and set that jewel in place. Now this has a small spring that retains this component. And I'll need a okay. Oh, come on now. And there we go. Okay, now we're ready to put our plate on. Once we've got all of our components, let's just count up and make sure everything is here, because you don't want to have to take it apart again. But I think we're good. I think we're really good. All right, so now we'll place this in place. Making sure that everything is lined up as it should be. Yes. The hard part is this, our recording wheel. Come on. There we go. And there we have it. 3 screws, and that plate is in place. These are a very special shape screw that only occur here. They are longer and they have this domed head. So you know that these are unique to these positions. Seiko was nice in that they provided variations in the texture and the length of particular screws to make it slightly easier for service technicians to go in afterward and be sure that they knew where things went. So that's reassuring. Okay. Now I'm actually going to go ahead and lubricate. Well, I'll hold off. I'll wait. We'll come back and do it. Okay, so there's your hour wheel component rebuilt, and you can see here's a reset lever, and that actuates a hammer that goes against the heart, and at the same time it releases the braking wheel which holds that in place. So that's a very good sign that that works without any impedance. Very good. All right, now we flip and grab our other movement holder and we start on the train side. So let's get going. So first we take a very close look at every one of your wheels, train wheels, so that we know that there are no hairs or issues that can lead to really sort of spurious performance. If you get a hair wrapped around your gears, you might as well not even have done the work in the first place, because anything like a hair or a small piece of detritus will lead to degraded performance. And that is not what we're looking for. Okay. And they just seem to find their way onto components, just like that one. Okay. No matter how hard you clean, there's always, you know, this isn't a clean room situation, so there's always dust. Always, always, always. You cannot get away from it. It's always there. And as a consequence, you need to be very careful when doing your reconstruction. Okay. Here's your all-important chronograph wheel, fourth wheel. And here's your escape wheel. Take a super close look at this one because it is the fast-moving dispenser of power to your palette fork, which is a very essential piece, which we'll lubricate and place in soon enough. But any hair on this object, any foreign contaminant will lead to problems. We don't want problems. We want excellence. Striving for excellence in all things we do. All right. Is it clean? Is it devoid? Yes. Okay. Let's go ahead and get that placed in. Goes right here. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and put your barrel in place. There we go. Now, the all-important winding gear. If that's not there, movement comes apart. Because you can't wind your watch without the winding gear. That would be a shame. Ask me how I know. Okay. What we need now is your plate. All right. So, here we go. Train bridge goes on. Now we got to make sure that all of your wheels are in their proper locations, and that way they fall into their jewels and allow us sometimes they drop right in, sometimes there they go. Sometimes they fight us just a touch. All right, so we get one screw. So what I generally do is I try and ensure that at I never tighten screws down directly. What I do is I get it contact, I check for the operation, And then I put in another screw, because what can happen is you can get this false, in a sense, a false positive, where you think you have the pivot, the actual end of these gears, into the jewel properly, but maybe it's just sitting on the plate. And that slight misalignment, if you tighten down on any of those screws in that configuration, you're done. You got to replace that piece, that pivot, because you squashed it into the movement, which is never a good idea. So right now I have all 3 screws just in place and everything's moving exactly as it should and free. The plates are flat with respect to each other. So now I can just tighten down my screws. There's no torque settings on any of these things, so you just kind of go until you're assured you have good contact. Okay, so now we're going to lubricate our 2 jewels here for your 3rd wheel and your escape wheel. Okay, and now we put the cover back on. It covers those 2 wheels and allows for a place for the intermediate wheel that runs your minute recording wheel to place. So that's a bushing for that object, which is right there. Put its little screw back in. Whoops. Come on. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Yeah, that looks good. All right, ratchet wheel and your click and spring combination. Such an ingenious little design here. Rather than fiddly little parts and little springs, I just said, let's stamp out something that does the job. And that's what that is. That's a little stamped out job doer. Doer of jobs. Here's its screw. The one unique, singular unique screw for that. Okay. Now your ratchet wheel and its screw. Next we build out your operating levers and other components that comprise your chronograph functions. Looks good. Okay, good deal. Very nice. Okay. So your minute recording wheel is next. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and put your operating levers in place. So one goes here, one goes here. We also need to put your column wheel that goes here with its bushing. Make sure that's in place. Okay. Go ahead and lubricate some of these other components while we're in here. The front of this needs lubrication. So I usually put a fairly heavy-duty kind of grease here. The column wheel itself needs lubrication. its retaining screw. That screw doesn't actually tighten, it just allows that to freewheel. And your first operating lever. Let's go ahead and put your chronograph in the off state. That's good. Everything turns, which is nice. This junction point here needs lubrication. Some heavy duty grease in there. Do the job. Alright, your second operating lever needs to go in place, and this actually also is a lever that operates the hour recording components. This pin right here comes through. That was part of that object that I said looked like a little dancing thing. That's what that is, and that's what that does. It helps to operate both components. It's always a bit of a tricky maneuver to get this to go into place. There we go. Hold on. We all have to work together here. Let's be agreeable, huh? All right. Excellent. Okay. So now this retaining screw, which is also just a pivoting point, just retains that to pivot. Good. Now we should see this does its job, and we'll get a spring that retains this. It's a resetting spring. It's a heavy duty one. Goes right here. And there we go. Looks good. Okay, let's go ahead and get your hammer in place. Okay, so let's put your hammer in. This is the reset component for your chronograph. It has its own spring, and it has to sit right here. There we go. All right, except for two wheels, which is your minute recording, of course. Which in the 6138s has a jeweled hole here that's challenging. It's pretty deep and it's pretty long, and there we go. All right, now for the intermediate wheel. This is what clicks over your minute recording wheel. It's always so challenging. Again, sometimes they fall right into place, and sometimes they fight. All right, so now for the last of your plates, hold the components. Everybody out of the way here. Okay, that looks good. Oops. If I had a dime for every time I did that, I would have quite a number of dimes. It's just the perfect size hole for that screw head. Okay, let's check operation here. Okay, let's put this. This is your reset for your hammer. Looks good. Perfect. All right, let's lubricate this jewel. And let's get some more screws in. There we go. That's one. And two. We are very close. Very close to seeing the heartbeat of this movement. So next thing we have to do, though, is lubricate. Again, lubricate a component, and that's your pallet fork. So we're gonna be very cautious with that small and delicate item. And we are going to add some lubricant to the jewels that make up the pallet fork. Let's take a very close look at their condition. Pretty good. I have seen much, much, much worse. All right, let's go ahead and get those cleaned and lubricated. It'll take me a moment here, and I have to do this sort of off camera because I need to be able to really look at what I'm doing. It's a very delicate process. If I get lubrication in the wrong spot, it will arrest the movement because it will act as a braking grease instead of a lubricant. There's one dab. And let's see if we can get this next one on. There we go. Okay. Let's get this dropped in place. Okay, no big deal. Just had to take a very close look at everything first. Oh, I think we're ready to bring everything into working positions. Ah, yes, there we go. All right. That was a bit strange, but not unprecedented. I have to take a second look sometimes. right, now we look at your balance and hairspring. Now I've gone through all these components prior, but I just, I always like to be sure that everybody's behaving as they should. There are no strange fuzzies or hairs or any kind of nonsense. Now, I don't have the upper die shock setting in place, so we'll have to lubricate that and put it in, but our lower one is correct. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to place our balance. And I tend to like to do it this way just so that I can see my pivot for the balance being put into place as I drop it in without obstruction from the jewel. Then I lock it in place once it's running like it is, which is very nice to see. I lock it down, and then I go ahead and replace the jewel. Again, there's no harm in this method, but perhaps somebody will tell me that this is not the right way to do it, but I have never had an issue. And frankly, I don't think it is a big deal either way. But now we have to place your jewel, so we have to lubricate it. First things first, always lubrication. Take a close look at your cap jewel. The thing about cap jewels is they have an orientation, so they need to be in the right position so that the flat end is inside of the jewel mechanism and the curved side is on the outside. So I think we are there. Let's go ahead and replace your jewels and put our fancy lubricator that delivers the appropriate amount of lubrication to these die shocks and die fix settings. Let's see where we stand with that. All right, that looks good. Okay. Last few pieces, and we get to see how we did. That straightens your balance right up. It looks good. So far, so good. Don't see anything bad, that's for sure. Let's make sure this goes on. The good thing about Rotoco is it's sticky, and the bad thing about Rotoco is that it's sticky. Okay, so. Okay. Well, not much to do. This is really stunning. Like I said before, your numbers in the beginning were actually pretty clean. Your signal was nice. I haven't even touched this, and I mean, we've been running for 2 minutes, and you have numbers in the 240s already. This is incredible. So I'm gonna adjust out some of that error. Whoops, I just touched the balance, so that's never good. To get the numbers right, you gotta be careful. But ooh, not too far. Okay, let's see where we are here. Sometimes these things are a little sticky, and you gotta push them. All right, so now we're losing tremendous amounts of time. A couple seconds a day. Boop. And it's going to be a seesaw here, back and forth. Okay, let's shoot for the middle. I mean, 246. I think we've done our job. This looks really good. No beat error. Extremely good amplitude. Oops. And slowing down the movement. Let's let it get back to where it was. Okay. This is just super good. I'm really happy with this. This is what happens when you start with a good watch. You get great performance. Okay, let's get these numbers where we want them, and then we will start building out your other components, which, I mean, there's no run-in here. This is all just perfect. Oops. Okay, let's see how close we can get there. All right, not quite where we want to be. Let's go back down again. Okay, so that's not bad. That is not bad at all. No beat error. Accuracy to within a few seconds per day, and an amplitude of nearly 250. We're at 243. Wow. Unreal. Unreal. So those little blips you see, those are partially me talking and partially movement, the lubricants moving around their necessary spots within the movement. And so it's going to go up and down, and as soon as things get evened out, it'll jump back up again. But man, wow, what a signal. What a performer. All right, I'm super happy with that. Okay, Steve, we are gold. We are ready for takeoff. Let's go ahead and get the rest of your movement put together. I'm really happy with this. Okay, well, now we're off the time grapher. Now we can go ahead and build out the rest of your components here. These are all the simple ones. No real fuss or issue to putting these all back together. So we're going to just go ahead and proceed now that we know that the watch is stunning in its performance. I feel like giving this thing a standing ovation. It's just doing amazing. Okay. So last couple things to do. We need to get your few parts here lubricated. Ooh. Okay. Now for some date change components. Had one of these fail in a movement recently. The customer came and said, well, my watch isn't working properly, and it was because of that piece right there that I just fitted, which is unfortunate for them, but it's a cheap fix, which is good. Okay, here's the Millennium Falcon and its retaining screw. Again, another one of those screws that doesn't actually tighten any of the pieces that it's holding, it just holds it in place, which is good. So we are free to move. Okay. Now, for your calendar works, we just have a few more pieces. Here is your wheel for the date. And it gets some retaining plates. There we go. And some screws. Oh my goodness. These screws want to go spelunking or something. Get the appropriate sized screwdriver. Sometimes you can tell if somebody is either in a hurry or doesn't really care. They can tighten these screws with a screwdriver of the wrong width across, and that then grinds into the plate, which leaves a mark, which we don't want to do. We sort of take the Hippocratic oath on these movements to do no damage. I've seen some on some really high-end movements actually that people have actually engraved their signatures into some jeweler has engraved their mark into the plates of the watch, which is unreal. I don't know why people do such things. Have to leave their indelible mark behind, which is kind of a nightmare. Anyway, we won't do that. Hopefully leave it better than we started. Okay. There we go. Now for your day. Okay. This takes two hands. You have to make sure that it's in the right position, and then you can push back the jumper. Ever so slightly. And there we go. And here's your C-clip, which goes with the chamfered side facing the movement. Certainly not the other way. Dogs. And here we go. Let's get on. There we go. Come on. And there we have it. Perfect. Okay, let's check the operation here. There's your quick date. Quick day. Perfect. See if we can get the, ooh, that lovely, lovely new cannon pinion. Feels nice. And there's your click over and your click over. Perfect. That's exactly where we want to be. Okay, good. Now for the dial in the hands, which is hard to do on camera, so I'm going to jump out for just a second and I'll show you when I get done. Okay, Steve, we have reached a momentous point here. We are going to finish your watch. We're going to put the last of the pieces together and then we're going to take a look. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, get your automatic winding framework and your magic lever here, magic fingers, otherwise known as a pawl lever. Oops. Now, why would you want to do that to me? After all I've done for you, you want to just fly off for no reason. Let's try that again. Here we go. There we go. Nicely in place. Let's make sure your levers are in their proper positions. Again, good. Okay. Two unique screws. There's one. Here's number two. Okay. One last point of lubrication right here. There we go. Okay, time to put your winding weight back in place. And the last screw right here. And with that, we are finished. Okay, let me get a little clock. Well, Steve, there it is. There's your watch. After all these years, it is back to where it is. It looks fantastic. Okay, I'll put your bracelet on in a bit, but you know, I don't think we can do better here. This is just a stunning example of a jumbo. You cared for this watch, you wore this watch, and it's going to reward you with years of quality timekeeping. All right, well, let's just go over some of the details of your watch. So, like I said, we had some minor water intrusion on this side of the watch from a crack in the crystal. That was way a long time ago, I think. I have replaced the crystal. You have all new seals everywhere, front, back, sides. Your pushers have new seals. Your crown. Let's check all the functionality of the watch so we can, of course, go through the day and date. So we'll click over at midnight. That was noon. All right, here we go. There we go. Click to the next day, and then we advance, and around 3 o'clock in the morning you get the day. So the date will go first, then the day a few hours later. All right, so now that we're here, push that in. We can wind your watch. That's working, of course. Your chronograph feature works perfectly. Now, I always advise everybody who has a 6139 or a 6138, do not, under any circumstances, if you're going to have to run your chronograph, if you just like the way it looks, let it run. It's nice to have a sweep second hand. I always let mine run. I think they look cool that way. However, if you do want to stop it and reset it, please do that between 11 and 1 o'clock. And as close as you can get to 12, the better. I say that simply because the reset process is two mechanical or simultaneous mechanical horns or hands or levers, if you will, pushing against this wheel. This wheel, the center wheel, is your chronograph wheel. Let's watch it click over. Perfect. Your chronograph wheel is non-replaceable in the sense that as soon as it breaks, you need to buy a movement, the entire internals of the watch. That's the cost of one of those wheels. The other issue is that these hands are keyed to these chronograph wheels. So each key, or each hand and each wheel, is a match set from the factory. So your hand will not reset back to 0 on another chronograph wheel if you have to replace it. So you limit the amount of torque applied when you reset at this position. Just the force that's involved in turning everything back to 0, you can mitigate a lot of that force simply by resetting between 11 and 1. And that's just something to remember. Now, are you going to kill it every time if you happen to do it down here? No, but the probability goes up every time you try that. Okay, so again, your watch cleaned up beautifully, all original components. You can see here, I don't know if you can catch this, but you have this original beautiful vertical brushing on the sides, followed by the high polish on the top and the bottom. That is such a cool feature of this, just the aesthetics of this watch. I really love it. So again, you know how much I really like this watch and your story about it. I hope you get a lot of use and you love it for a long time. If you don't love it anymore, just give me a call. But yeah, this is a great watch. All right. Well, thank you very much, Steve, and we'll be in touch, and we'll get this back to you as soon as possible. Thanks.